Albums I missed, albums I missed. These are all the albums I missed, albums I missed, albums I missed. These are all the albums I missed. These are all the albums that I didn't talk about in April 2024. Maybe it's because I did not know that they existed, or maybe I didn't care, or maybe I was busy, I don't know. But these are the albums I missed. That's right, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. It's that magical time at the end of every month where I tell you about a bunch of stuff that came out in that month that we just didn't talk about in a regular album review. Oh my god, so crazy. I bet you never saw this coming. That's so... Whoa. Whoa. First up, we have It Beckons Us All from Darkthrone, and I think people they might be shocked to know that I missed this one. How could you, Robert? They're black metal legends. What is wrong with you? My thoughts and feelings on Darkthrone are pretty well documented at this point, but just in case you're somehow brand new to the Metal Meltdown, let me make something clear. Not a fan of Darkthrone. I'm not a fan of the so-called classic era. I'm not a fan of the so-called unholy trinity. I've enjoyed bits and pieces of the last couple of albums, but I think I've given most, if not all, of their last few albums like a 2.5 out of 5, and that's probably what I would have given this album as well had we done a full album review. I'm not really into that very minimalistic, dry, thin production, especially not that guitar tone. I'm not really into the dry, cackled vocals. I'm not really into, like, this implementation of, like, classic heavy metal and doom metal into this, like, slow-moving kind of black metal. The album does have decent atmosphere, and again, if you love Darkthrone, I don't see why you wouldn't like this album, but I don't like Darkthrone, therefore I didn't like this album. I'm mentioning this almost out of obligation, because if I don't, a bunch of motherfuckers are going to go, holy shit, you're not going to talk about Darkthrone at all? Oh. Like, I'm going to get emails and DMs about it for weeks on end, so that's why. No disrespect. If you love this album, great. If you love Darkthrone, great. Not my cup of tea. Not my brand of tea. I don't care for this particular type of tea. And believe it or not, Darkthrone is not the only semi-arguably overrated extreme metal band to have released an album at the very end of the month that I did not talk about in a full album review, that I actively chose not to talk about in a full album review. What a fascinating coincidence. Next up, Levels of Perception from Pestilence. Based on production and mixing and mastering alone, this could end up in, like, the worst albums of the year list, at bare minimum, as an honorable mention. Like, I don't remember the last time I heard a death metal album that just sounded and felt this ugly in a really not fun, cool, and brutal way. Like, this thing sounds like ass. The entire album sounds like it's fucking underwater and just caked in crap. There's no balance, no body, everything is quiet, but, like, it has this noisy feel simultaneously, almost as if all the equipment is fucked. There's nothing necessarily wrong with their performances. On a technical level, this is a perfectly adequate record that, with a better sound mix and production, might have been a bit of a success. But it isn't, and it is entirely because of the production. And the cold irony here is, none of these are original songs, they're all older songs. Like, Pestilence have taken all of these songs and they've just re-recorded them. It's basically Pestilence's version of First Strike Still Deadly. Except, like, you know, actively worse. I don't know what the fuck Patrick and the rest of the Pestilence gang were thinking, but this is not it. This is fucking so not the fuck it. Alright, we're moving on to some fun stuff. Thank God. Finally! Next up is Ekbom from French blackened brutal death metal crew Benighted. Pretty sick. Pretty twisted. Pretty great. Not really much to say, it's Benighted doing what they do best, you know? Lots of tight, nasty grooves and explosive barrages of blackened death metal insanity and mayhem and brutality. I mean, to be fair, there are at least, like, a couple twists and turns here and there, some atmospheric sections, some, like, spaced-out breakdowns and grooves. Oliver Ray Aleron also shows up on the album, delivering some nasty, rapid-fire gutturals. And the album's lyrics and overall concept deals with, like, psychological horror and mental health, and specifically something known as Ekbom syndrome, which I've never really heard of until now. But I mean, that also sounds brutal. The American National Institutes of Health defines Ekbom syndrome as being synonymous with delusionary parasitosis, a belief that one's body is infested by invisible bugs. Persons suffering from this syndrome often claim to feel dermal sensations and to visualize the bugs, although no one else can see them. Look, it's benighted, doing what they do with a few extra spices and flavors thrown into the mix. Very good, very satisfying. Next up, we have The Way Forward from Black Tusk. This is their first album in nearly 5.5, 6 years or so. And I didn't even know these guys were still around, and as such did not know that this album existed and was available to the public until, like, basically yesterday. I honestly had no earthly fucking clue. But I am happy that I did eventually have a clue, and that I did check it out, because it's everything I want and expect from a band like Black Tusk. You know, it's in-your-face, abrasive, sludgy punk, with a few weird textures here and there, high-octane moments, a lot of attitude. Think Cancer Bats meets mid-2000s High on Fire, and you're kind of in the right ballpark. It's nice to see that after all these years, and despite the loss of Jonathan Anthon, these guys are more than capable of writing mean, crusty, sludgy, punky anthems. Had I known about this album a little sooner, I might have done a review, and it probably would have gotten like a 3.5 out of 5. Really good album. Not much to really dissect or dig into here. It's just good, fun, sludgy, hardcore punk metal. Like, what more do you need to know? Next up, we have Lifeless Birth from Necrot. These guys have made a name for themselves, playing straightforward but really fun, respectable, meat and potatoes, old school death metal kind of stuff. They're by no means reinventing the wheel, but you know, the wheel is moving smoothly. Doesn't look half bad either, driving around town in a cool little fucking whatever the shit you drive. I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know. Necrot does a pretty good job at kind of imbuing this old school death metal worship with like a sense of like doom and dread and some subtle melodicism as well. Wailing guitars aplenty, tons of grim, nasty, dark tones and riffs. Think Master, Autopsy, Grave all kind of mixed together in a blender with the kind of menace I would maybe get from like early Cannibal Corpse, and you're kind of in the right ballpark. Loving the sound and the feel of this record too. Like, it's just so grimy and crusty. Like, it just has this like gross, weird kind of feel that just works perfectly for this style of death metal. Necrot isn't a band I've ever paid like a ton of attention to when it comes to old school death metal worship shit. I prefer Undeath personally, but hey, ain't nothing wrong with a silver medal. Necrot doing some cool fun stuff, you'll probably have fun and you'll probably think it's cool. Enjoy. Next up, we have Sentinels from Vulture. We actually reviewed their previous album, Dealin' Death, here on the Metal Meltdown back in 2021. I thought it was great, probably the best thrash metal album that was released that year, and I'm tempted to maybe say the same for Sentinels. At bare minimum, it's tied with Swallowed by Hell from Morbid Saint. What I really like about Vulture's take on thrash metal is that it kind of feels like a culmination, a smorgasbord of so many different styles and ideas from thrash metal, you know? Like, it's not just like fucking Metallica Slayer worship, you know? You get some American thrash influence, you get some German thrash influence, you even get like Canadian thrash influence. Like, this thing feels like a mix of riffs and styles and tones and ideas from Exodus, very early Creator, Razor, super tight, super fast, super in your face. We've got more of that like old school kind of like 80s thrash sound and feel and metallic sheen as well. Like, there's a lot of reverb, everything sounds big and heavy. There's some more epic tones and hooks and melodies here and there that I also kind of appreciate. It's almost like we're dipping our toes into like early Manowar or even like some of the thrashier stuff from Blind Guardian. I don't really listen to a lot of thrash metal anymore, but this scratched an itch that I didn't even know that I had. Next up, we have New Heaven, brand new studio album and the 6th overall from American sludge and post-metal crew Arma. And guess what? Out of all of the albums that we're talking about today, this one is the best of the best. Like, out of everything we're talking about today, this is the album that I'm telling you, you really need to sit down and spend time with. This is Arma at their most vulnerable, at their most intimate, their most expressive, and at their most versatile. They have taken the best elements of records like Paradise Gallows and Sulphur English, all of the emotionally charged sludge and post-metal, and they've elevated it to the next level with new influences, new ideas, new sounds. You have these like Nick Cave style, very morose, mournful vocal performances. You have like avant-garde death metal bombast on par with something I would expect from Portal, southern rock-inspired interludes, all brought together and combined with the usual Arma sonic brew. It's incredibly dense and incredibly powerful, and I'm really fucking enjoyed it. I honestly wish I had reviewed this instead of Voidkind from Dune, because A, it's a better album, and B, no one tuned into that fucking Dune review. Y'all don't care. Y'all did not care. It's okay, though. I still like you, Dune. I gave you a shot, and I'll happily give you another. I'm getting off topic. The point is, this thing is really fucking great, really fucking intense. Arma's best and most ambitious album to date. Next up, we have Spleen and Goad, brand new studio album from English sludge metal crew Iron Monkey, underdogs really of the entire sludge metal scene. I dig what they're doing. It's basic and blunt, and it's got some super rough edges, but you know, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of anger and intensity, and I think that there is some really interesting and especially heavy moments that I think a lot of people, especially if you love sludge metal, are going to enjoy. Like, it has this really scuzzy and stubborn sound and feel, some unhinged vocals and lyrics, some really fucking, like, loud, pounding percussion, bulky riffs and guitar tones. Though not as chaotic or as wild as I Hate God, it does tap into a kind of, like, darkness and nihilism and intensity that I expect from I Hate God. Definitely a few sluggish and bland moments here and there, but overall I think it succeeds at what it's trying to do. If you're not into the more fun-loving sludge of Black Tusk or the more progressive and emotional sludge of Arma, and you just want that old-school fucking heavy sludge sound, boom, this is it. Next up, we have Injuries Are Inevitable, brand new full-length studio album from English slam and brutal death metal crew Party Cannon. These guys are known for being very goofy, very self-aware, for just writing very unserious, silly stuff. And Injuries Are Inevitable is really not much of an exception whatsoever. The album has like a goofy, corny sense of humor with silly lyrics. There's a sample right in the very beginning taken from Ash vs. Evil Dead. Big slammy grooves and beatdowns and groovy riffs and guttural vocals all throughout as well. I will say I do think I find myself preferring their previous studio album Volumes of Vomit over this. I just felt that that was a much stronger, heavier record. It had more volume, it had more body and depth to it. The drums especially had a much sharper sound on that album, you know? It just had more oomph and impact. That being said, I don't think anyone's going to give a fucking shit. Like, nobody is listening to a fucking Party Cannon album to dissect the sonic intricacies, to discuss the production and mixing and mastering, you know? People are listening to Party Cannon because it's big and dumb and gross. That's what people want, and that's what people are gonna get. Do not let the fact that Party Cannon is now signed to Unique Leader Records fool you. They are still very much quintessentially Party Cannon. That has not changed, and I really don't expect it to anytime soon. Next up, we have the sophomore album from Canadian technical and progressive death metal crew Atrabilis, I believe their name is pronounced. I don't know. I'm sure someone will correct me and tell me I'm an idiot in the comments. The album's called Homicide, and it's great. Big improvement on the debut. Bigger, bolder, meaner, tighter, more technical, more intelligent. Extremely snappy, muscular grooves all throughout this thing. Some pulverizing beats and churning progressions. Really cool use of dissonance in different tones and textures across the album. I especially like seeing a technical progressive death metal band that isn't relying on artsy-fartsy wankery and guitar pyrotechnics. Like, quite the opposite. They really know when to reel back and just kind of let a good meaty riff be a good meaty riff. They're content to just kind of ride it and let it play out and let it do its thing. In a way, it kind of reminds me of something from, like, Hideous Divinity, in the sense that, like, there's a lot going on, but it doesn't, like, bash you over the head with all of that at once. Like, this album can be, or at least sound and feel, more subtle and more nuanced than your standard modern-day over-the-top tech death. And I mean, when this thing wants to be really brutal, too, it can genuinely be really fucking brutal. Like, there's some genuinely nasty, disgusting stuff on here. I highly recommend this record. Great stuff. Definitely check it out. Next up, we have Vengeance of Eternal Fire from Antichrist Siege Machine, and yes, it's every bit as extreme as it sounds. Really wild, noisy, messy, chaotic combination of like black metal and death metal, like a lot of muscular, heavy, brutal and beefy riffage, screaming vocals, and like wailing vocals and wailing guitars as well, static and feedback with like black metal darkness and atmosphere. There's a lot of like pummeling, pulverizing riffs and grooves as well, some more cathartic swings and transitions. At times this actually does kind of like have the intensity I would expect more so of a grindcore record. Like it's just an extreme record. Like when you say extreme metal, this is the kind of record that almost immediately comes into my mind. Like, it's just full-throttle, bloodthirsty, black death war metal, you know? Like, it doesn't fuck around, it doesn't let up, and it doesn't care what you fucking think of it either. This album is a beast, and it fucks, and that's what it wants to do, that's what it needs to do to survive, and that's what people who listen to this music want. Good for them. I dig it, even though it's not something I would normally dig. I dig it, and if you're looking for just some super fucking truly brutal shit, this is it. Next up, we have The Illusion of Time, brand new sophomore studio album from Death Doom crew Funeral Leech. Very dark, thick, soupy, miasmic sound and atmosphere with a lot of influence from Incantation and Evoken. Very like mid-pace, brooding, old school kind of Death Doom shit. And I like it. I don't love it, but I like it, you know? I mean, I feel like the songs are a little bit too long, and I feel like they could maybe speed up and get to the point just a little bit quicker. I wouldn't mind a few more switches and curveballs here and there, but you know what? It's got a dark, cavernous fucking sound, and it sounds evil and fucking mean, and there's a lot of beefy fucking riffage. A lot of really interesting and menacing and consuming kind of stuff here. Like, I feel like I'm trapped in like an endless dark void when I listen to this album, you know? Like, it just does a really good job at putting you in this really like fucked up place. In that sense, and especially on cuts like Penance in the Tower, it actually weirdly kind of reminds me of something like Spectral Voice. Like, if Spectral Voice was maybe doing more straightforward, cavernous kind of Death Doom stuff, I feel like this is in line with what they'd be doing. Overall, some really cool, nasty, dark stuff, just maybe needs a little bit more seasoning, you know? A little bit more time in the oven next time. It's all good. No worries. I'm still enjoying this Death Doom meal. Yummy. Next up, we have From the Other Side of the Mirror, brand new studio album from Glassing, who I was not aware of until recently. I apologize, I do not remember the name of the person who introduced me to Glassing. I know it was someone in the Discord, or at least I think it was. It might have been from a comment on another video. I'm sorry, I really am. I'm not a bright guy. It's a little early in the morning here on my end as well. Look, whoever it was that did that, thank you, you're great, I love you. This is a really cool record. I'm loving this very, like, destructive and, like, fucked up take on blackgaze. Like, we have these clean vocal dynamics and theatrics, but, like, it's eerie and kind of creepy, and it's kind of weird, and it's kind of complemented and balanced by, like, these stranger tones and textures, these more angular patterns and such. And, like, some of these riffs are devastatingly heavy, and there's, like, genuine black metal fury that's thrown into the mix as well. There's also some, like, angsty post-hardcore stuff kind of occasionally thrown into the mix as well, and I think that actually complements a lot of what I'm hearing here nicely. It makes for a more unique and mesmerizing and immediate and brutal kind of blackgaze experience, you know? It kind of reminds me of maybe something from Respire, or even like early Lantlos in a lot of ways. From what I understand, behind the scenes, Glassing did a lot of introspection, they really pushed themselves, and this kind of led to some altercations, like there was a lot of tension behind the scenes, and they were able to kind of like weaponize all of that into making this a more punishing record. Just great, angry shit all around, you know? Like if I were in a blackgaze post-black metal band right now, I'd be paying close attention to Glassing. They're doing some cool fucking shit. And finally, let's start wrapping things up with Into the Realms, the debut full-length studio album from self-proclaimed medieval fantasy doom metal band Castle Rat. This is just straight up fucking fun. So much so that if you're not having fun with Castle Rat, you yourself you're probably not fun. Just straight up. I'm being honest with you. I like you. You deserve to hear the truth. tons of like retro vintage heavy metal doom metal worship on display. Like you've got the heavy reverb and howling vocals of something like Candlemass. You've got like the total nerdy fantasy lyricism of something like Seraph Ungol. And you've got all these really like fuzzy bassy tones and grooves as well. You've got these subtle little twin guitar melodies and like some doomy passages that bring to mind like Black Sabbath and specifically albums like Masters of Reality and Paranoid. There's like psychedelic interludes across the album as well. Like this whole thing just feels like a time capsule of like late 70s to like mid 80s doom and epic heavy metal, you know? Hell, to be honest, if you told me this was recorded in like 1980 or 1979 and just recently was unearthed, I honestly might believe you. Might. Maybe. And voila, there you have it. Albums I missed April 2024. We talked about a lot of stuff today. Sludge metal, doom metal, thrash metal, death metal, blackgaze, all kinds of stuff. We covered mostly all of the bases. I'm pretty happy with this. But as always, there's probably something else that still slipped under the cracks that I just forgot about, that I just don't care about and decided not to talk about. So this is where I hand things off to you. What else did I miss? What else should I talk about, or at bare minimum, listen to in the near future? What should I be on the lookout for? What did you think of these albums? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Did you something else think about them? I don't know. I can't read your mind. Press this button right here to subscribe. Look, deicide, or deicide, or decide, or however you choose to pronounce them. It literally doesn't matter. It really literally doesn't matter unless you're a fucking grammar nerd. Something else. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.